Welcome to R&R Living Life. In this episode, Rick and I spent some time at Kelly's Knob, the highest point on the northern outskirts of Kununurra, known for spectacular views of the township, the Ord River, Elephant Rock, the farmlands, Marima National Park, and the distant ranges. Rick and I did not climb to the top as it was late afternoon and there were lots of steps that I was not interested in climbing this late in the day, and it is said to be a challenging climb. But we were happy clambering over the short rocky path formed in the natural rocks to view the vast panorama towards the ranges. The following day, after packing up Gidget and the boat, we made our way back over the diversion dam, where I was once again impressed with the massive radial gates set within the concrete framework and spillway structure. As we left Kununurra, we then crossed the Denham River, a significant waterway flowing into the Ord River. From there on, the landscape was relatively flat, as we crossed long floodplains with a view of the impressive ranges straight down the highway. As we neared the turn-off to Halls Creek, major roadworks were in progress. After taking the turn onto the Great Northern Highway, there before us was a line of mountains, not just poking out of the horizon, but taking up most of it. These weathered, rugged line of ranges were incredible. The folds between the ridges, as if an artist had taken a potter's tool, shaping, trimming, carving, and smoothing the ranges into the wild, rugged landscape before us. The Durack Ranges in the Kimberley are part of the broader Kimberley block, featuring rugged and varied sandstone landscapes carved by water and time, that certainly provided a striking landscape near the highway. During the Devonian period, a barrier reef system formed before a subsequent drop in sea levels over the Kimberley. Sea levels were high worldwide, and much of the land lay under shallow seas, where tropical reef organisms lived. The ranges are remnants of immense tectonic collisions from billions of years ago, with rocks telling the story of Australia's formation. It really was fascinating looking at them. We followed these large mountain ranges that swapped between passenger side to driver side, and it seemed that every time we rounded a corner or rise we would be surprised by yet another jaw-dropping sight. We again crossed the Denham River in the heart of the East Kimberley that rises between the Durack Range and the O'Donnell Ranges, then flows northwest parallel with the Great Northern Highway. The Denham River is one of the region's most significant and untouched water systems, with amazing environmental and cultural values and a vital seasonal tributary that flows into the mighty Ord River, which feeds Lake Kununurra and eventually the Cambridge Gulf. It flows through some of the Kimberley's most remote and awe-inspiring landscapes, from the tranquil floodplains near Kununurra to the rugged gorges near Halls Creek. This was spectacular outback scenery, one of the last truly wild places in Australia. The Denham River was named in 1882 by explorer and Kimberley's pioneer Michael Durack. Between Kununurra and Halls Creek, we passed hectares of plantations of Indian sandalwood, a thirsty crop utilising the Ord River's water. This high-value crop takes 15 to 20 years before it is ready to harvest. Sandalwood is a popular product in many households, found in perfumes, scented candles and oil diffusers. In mid-2024, two major sandalwood companies were up for sale, creating uncertainty within the region. Some Northern Australian landowners were left with huge debts amid the winding up of one of the major sandalwood managed investment scheme portfolios when it was placed in voluntary administration, with unresolved issues including unpaid land lease payments, leaving landowners in limbo with what to do with the plantations. Some landholders are making the move to planting cotton, but the transition from forestry land to cotton industry isn't a quick one. About 110 kilometres south of Kununurra was Woollahra, also referred to as Doon Doon. We did not stop at the roadhouse on this leg, though I have read that it is a great place to stop, rest and restock. We seemed to be driving in and out of a line of ranges. At one point we drove along the edge of a waterway and could see where there had been waterfalls over the rocks into the creek below. We also passed through areas where fire reduction burns had been carried out, and in some areas the green tinge was beginning to appear. The contrast between the green trees and the singed ones made for a dramatic sight. The Kimberley has always been one of those places that has intrigued me, especially living in cattle country, but this was not at all what I had expected. The more open country along waterways covered in grasses was more along the lines of what I had thought, only on a much larger scale, but was surprised by the number of huge ranges we were passing. In places, the green pick along the sides of the road was a sign of recent rains. The line of ranges was staggering, not something I had really considered. I was fascinated by the variety of trees, especially the kapok with their yellow flowers, and the boab trees so stark without their leaves, interspersed with eucalypts, bloodwoods, hardy wattles, and bohenia trees. The Kimberley really does support a diverse and spectacular variety of plant species. The ranges were all vastly different, from unique orange-layered conglomerate rock formations forming dramatic, distinct shapes, to others shaped by millions of years of erosion. Then again, others with steep escarpments, all showing unique geological formations. The Kimberley is not just a single feature, rather a country in itself, combining countless dramatic features where glacial and more recent volcanic activity has been responsible for the region's stunning evolutionary display. The main part of the Kimberleys is known as the Kimberley Plateau, that comprises the generally flat-lying sedimentary rocks. These sandstones and quartzites were deposited about 1,800 million years ago by major river systems that flowed from north to south across the whole region. This whole region of the Kimberley Plateau extends from the rugged northwest Indian Ocean coast south to the Fitzroy River and east to the Ord River, covering over 420,000 square kilometres, similar in size to Spain. In 1879, an expedition led by Alexander Forrest reported the area's suitability for grazing, and that encouraged permanent settlement. Discoveries of gold 2 years later brought a short-lived gold rush, but cattle remained as the major industry for European settlement against a backdrop of conflict with the local indigenous population. Beef cattle were raised in the north and west, and meat is processed at Wyndham and Derby. For a while we seemed to be travelling through more open country covered with kangaroo, ribbon, buffel and birdwood grasses and various spinifexes, thriving in the diverse terrains from floodplains to sandy soils and rocky areas, all crucial for pastoralism, but also posing weed challenges. We crossed Bow River that flows into the Ord River at Lake Argyle. This 148 kilometre long river was also named by pastoralist Michael Durack in 1882, after the Bow River in his family's ancestral home in County Clare, Ireland. Michael Durack was the son of Patrick Durack and Mary Costello, both Irish Australians. In 1882-83, at around the age of 17, he and his family went on an expedition to the Kimberley region in Western Australia. On his 21st birthday, he made the first sale of Kimberley cattle to a Halls Creek butcher for £1,200 in raw gold. In 1894, a new shipping trade was established from Wyndham to Perth, and the Durack family became one of the main suppliers in this market, eventually merging with their shipping agents, with the company to control nearly 16,000 square kilometres of property on the West Australian Northern Territory border. The firm was a major influence on the Kimberley pastoral industry for the next 50 years. Michael Durack negotiated a shipment of 3,612 cattle to the British colony of Natal in southeastern Africa in 1902, which was long hailed a record overseas consignment of live cattle. Around 200 kilometres from Kununurra, we stopped at the Warmanan Roadhouse, located between Kununurra and Halls Creek. Warnham, also known as Turkey Creek, is named for the small creek that runs through the community. The area was settled by European pastoralists in the 19th century, but the community was established in 1901 when the state government built a rations depot at Turkey Creek. We had now entered the Shire of Halls Creek, one of 4 local government areas in the Kimberley region of northern Western Australia, covering an area of 143,000 square kilometres. The Shire originated as the Kimberley Goldfields Road District in February 1887, but was renamed the Hall Creek Road District in January 1915. On the 1st of July 1961 it became a Shire, following the passage of the Local Government Act 1960, which reformed all remaining road districts into shires. The area is home to many large cattle stations, including Bedford Downs Station, which was established sometime prior to 1906 by the Buchanan and Gordon brothers, Alice Downs, Louisa Downs, midway between Fitzroy Crossing and Halls Creek, Moola Bulla, Springvale and Ruby Plains stations situated along the Tanami track and was used as a stopping place along the Canning Stock route. The cluster of stations, including Alice Downs, Springvale Station, Texas and Mabel Downs, were joined to form the Springvale Aggregation, owned by Harvest Road, an agribusiness owned by Andrew Forrest, that together cover just over 6,000 square kilometres. We then crossed a portion of the Panthon River with its 7 tributaries that flows through Alice Downs and rises below Alice Hill, then flows in an easterly direction before discharging into the Ord River on the southern edge of Prunalla National Park. The area consists of open downs covered with paddocks of Mitchell, Flinders and bluegrass, with stock watered at numerous springs along its length. Controlled fires had already been lit, leaving behind blackened paddocks and some with green pick already regrowing. The open and jagged cliff faces on either side of us were covered in vegetation of every shade of green. Beside the Ord River was Leicester's Rest Area, named after a young 13-year-old boy who died in a single-vehicle accident in July 1999. With support from the Hall Creek community, the rest area was named in his honour. His favourite quote was, "No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." I think for one so young to have such an impact on his community, and to those of us who travel and stop at the rest area, reminding us to look around and really see, to listen and really hear, and to sense and really feel the difference that those we love make in the world. The vast contrast between the huge Ord River, millions of years old, and the short life of a young boy who treasured something as small as a 5-cent piece was so poignant and thought-provoking. In this remarkable place beside the Ord River, it certainly made me think about how fragile life can be. The Ord River in the Kimberley Plateau region of the north-eastern Western Australia rises in the Albert Edward Range and discharges into the Cambridge Gulf with an expansive catchment area of around 55,000 square kilometres. The river was discovered in 1897 by Alexander Forrest and was named for Sir Harry Ord, Governor of Western Australia from 1877 to 1880. We have been travelling through some of the most amazing country, not only in Western Australia, but across our travels. Having lived on the land for many years, I was always interested in the Kimberley's pastoral history that began in the 1880s, with ambitious droving from the east and seaborne stock, establishing vast cattle and sheep stations, driven by explorers' reports of rich land, but facing harsh environments, diseases, poor markets, and conflict with indigenous people who resisted the invasion of their lands. Most cattle stations in the Kimberley were established in the 1880s, and by about 1917 the area held around 700,000 head of cattle. The cattle industry struggled in the 2 decades following the First World War. Issues including pasture degradation and soil erosion occurred as a result of overstocking, which caused pastoralists to reduce herd numbers. The previously low prices for primary produce were cut even more during the Depression in the 1930s. Prices stabilised for beef at the outbreak of the Second World War, as it was deemed necessary for the war economy of Australia, and the industry started to recuperate. During the following 40 years, station life shifted, with pastoralists heavily relying on stockmen to manage their livestock, to switching to using aircraft, helicopters and motorcycles, decreasing the need for both stockmen and station hands. By the 1970s, with modern developments, a switch to focusing on Indigenous-led enterprises, box beef and addressing historical injustices saw pastoral stations become more and more corporatised as absentee owners and companies took over pastoral leases. In recent years, Indigenous groups in the Kimberley have acquired several stations on their traditional country. These Indigenous-owned cattle ventures aim to progress towards positive economic, social and cultural outcomes for their communities. I was surprised to see a trig station, a fixed surveying point used for geodactic surveys, as we don't often see them, typically consisting of a black disc on a metal structure indicating the location of a peak or hill. The East Kimberley region, with its large swathes of wilderness defined by rugged ranges, dramatic gorges, semi-arid savanna with a large isolated coastline, has been remarkable. It has been an amazing journey so far as we travel along the Great Northern Highway through some very isolated country. We have only just begun our adventure through the Kimberley region as we make our way towards Broome. The journey between Kununurra and Broome is more than 1,100 kilometres and has been an immersive introduction to Australia's ancient landscapes. Rick and I will leave you for this episode in Halls Creek, roughly halfway between Kununurra and Broome. Give us a thumbs up if you have enjoyed this episode. Join us next time as we visit China Wall, camp overnight at Gumburn Cliffs, situated in the Mueller Ranges. See you next time. Embrace and enjoy life. Thanks for watching. Rick and Rosemary. R&R Livin' Life.